conflict. The Seleucid puppet Haik has marched into Syria. Only a smaller band of inexperienced recruits led by Aristophanes stood in their way. Heavily outnumbered, the only advantage for the Egyptians were their superior equipment recently acquired through a new reform. We formed up in two small sub-armies with two swords up front, followed by peltasts and Gallic spears. In between were the cavalry. However, right before the battle started, the Egyptian commander called for his entire army to make a cohesive strike on the enemy left flank. Defeat in detail, you might say. Our peltasts would use their speed and flexibility to find small pockets from which to fire into the enemy flanks. Once out of ammo, they just charged into combat, overwhelming their enemies. Aristophanes himself decided to take the Haik commander head on. Thanks to the support of his cavalry companions, this resulted in the death of their leader, causing the enemy units harassed by our peltasts to waver and eventually rout off the field. This basically turned the numbers in our favor, leading to an Egyptian victory. With this incursion repelled, Aristophanes proved the pharaoh was right to trust him in the defense of Syria. But his watch is just beginning. Northeast of Kidness, the Galatian invaders took advantage of a fading Seleucid nation, allowing them to grow in power. If we are to secure this agricultural sector of ours, we will need the protection of Isis, the goddess of magic and nature. Jason returned to the Demetria stronghold, while Alexander's Syria kept the peace, as a frontier garrison. In Mesopotamia, it looked like the Iron Curtain is performing the intended results, with the Seleucid battalions fleeing back into the mountain regions of the east. Back south, both Ptolemies were rapidly closing in on Cyrene, along with the Achilles fleet, which by now was back up and running. By the looks for intel, all they had left was this single horde of disorganized warriors, and with us dominating the intelligence field by getting rid of our opposition, the Igadimen wouldn't realize we had formed a fully fledged counterattack. Maybe we should reconsider our relations in Arabia. Our current relatives, the Nabateans, who practically stole 10,000 gold from us, is under attack from Saba. I'm not actually surprised by this liberation move. I mean, they did eliminate the Himyar too, who also was a partner of ours. Our knowledge of this war is restricted, but there is no doubt this will be a major war, potentially changing the strategic situation in the east. Whether we should intervene or not is yet to be decided, and what side to join is still up for debate. As the pharaoh passed by Alexandria and into Libya, he gave the orders to our fleet to initiate our plans. Junior marched for the walls to prepare for an attack, while the fleet would deny any supplies from reaching them by sea. Irenaeus, the commander of Alexander's Libya, was thus left with the cursed town Ogila. I doubt anything too terrible could occur by this point, but who really knows? A single Seleucid army stayed near Sugma. Fearing for the safety of our ally, Aristophanes marched his legion up to one of the bridges. Here he would recruit Syrian and Sicilian levies to bolster his army for a potential liberation attack. All these armies took such a major toll on our income, we decided to reform our economic archives, ensuring our commerce and industrial sectors actually could sustain this upkeep. It was still worth it though, as our presence alone was enough to make the Seleucids waver. With them gone, Aristophanes came up with an idea to expand the Iron Curtain further north of that, by liberating the vineyards of Samosata. However, by the same summer the Galatians apparently had the exact same idea. Not wanting to compete with them or just cross swords in general, he marched his army back to Antioch. Our positive relations with the local Persians had borne fruit. Pleased with the security we gave them, they offered their elephant techniques and tactics, an exceptional gift Jason immediately accepted. At Kyrene, our improved fleet smashed their inferior attempts at breaking our blockade. They did repel our siege though, but it was never our intent for Junior to attack alone. Rather, he was just gonna wait for his father to arrive so they together could crush these warmongering bastards. But there wouldn't be a siege this time. As the Igadimen heard of us taking Orgilla, the Carthaginians straight up demanded us to cease our conflict and find peace. If only they knew the only way to reach peace is through one final battle. A conflict at this scale is too massive for the feeble eye. Instead, we will take a tactical point of view on this one. Ptolemy used his pike corps to pin down the enemy. The Ethiopian cavalry from Junior's army joined in at swift speed by hitting the enemy skirmishers from behind. Basically, the two Ptolemies slaughtered the first army while the second one hadn't even established a formation yet. Together they won this battle, hunting down any broken units like father and son. Some people like to play catch with their sons. Ptolemy and Junior did the same. Catch the fleeing enemy, that is. It was a decisive victory leading to the occupation of Kyrene and utter dominance over Libya for the second time. The only difference being is our grip on this province is so tight the Igadimen had no chance to take it back from us again. We didn't need to worry about that either, as this last battle had cracked their will to keep fighting. We allowed them to stay somewhat independent so long they bent the knee and became our client state. Fulfilling the demands of Carthage on bringing an end to our war with the Igadimen, this all-important trade deal was signed once more. They did have this second inquiry of us siding with them in a conflict against some unknown nation called Rome. Not thinking much of it, we accepted. They won't receive any major support, just our Achilles fleet. Surely they are enough to deal with these sons of Mars or whatever. With the three armies in Libya now staying idle, we had to find something else for them to do. Obviously one of the armies had to stay behind, and Junior had to return east where his army is needed. This situation in Arabia would have many challenging outcomes for us. It is his job to make sure these side effects are favorable to us. To the north, however, the Cappadocians from Massacre did eventually make a successful invasion into Kidnas. Luckily for us, Aristophanes was near Antioch, so he could relatively easily retake the settlement. But the fact that we failed to keep our promise to the locals of keeping them safe, a rebellion was on the rise. Not the best of moments for this to happen, as the Seleucid presence in Mesopotamia was increasing. Of all the possible diplomatic events to occur, I did not expect the Galatians to offer us a trade deal. I didn't even think they knew what that was. Yet I still don't trust them. But if they can take away some of the pressure from our allies, that might be good, right? Somehow the Seleucids had managed to lure out our allies' army into the open field. we weren't in a position to assist them either, with us being forced to deal with this rebellion. Our Iron Curtain sure has been profitable to us, but not our Atropatene Khan allies. We had practically abandoned them in their time of need, almost leading to their demise. The Seleucids have grown powerful again in the mountains and the east. Get this, the Massili, a client state of Carthage, declared war on us. Someone within their court surely doesn't appreciate our Greek ways. We didn't call in the Igadamen, fearing they would just betray us. A military access pact was out of the question too, so we couldn't even act on the situation. All we can do is wait for their two armies to attack us. Oh, and to make things worse, the Massili did the same 2 months later. Are they trying to start a war between Carthage and Egypt? Damianus, our hero from the Ethiopian and Libyan campaign, received a new mission. Gain intel on these Romans. Find their weak spots and study their naval tactics. In Syria, Jason erased the rebels, allowing for Aristophanes to rush to the rescue of Sugma. Last time his presence alone saved the town, but this time it was too late. The locals received an ultimatum: submit or perish. The Seleucids are turning our defensive strategy against us. Well aware we couldn't take them on at the same time, we retreated back to the western side of the Tigris. Jason marched up to a second crossing point further down the river, calling in local levies too. Achilles, which by now had recovered, resupplied and replenished, left the port of Kyrene to embark on what no one knew over time would turn into the bloodiest war the world so far has seen. That is actually a very difficult belief, but it is true, and that is even with us knowing what is going on in the east, and with someone in the Carthaginian elite trying to start a war between our two nations. Feeling the pressure in Syria once more, another army was required. Yet again it would be led by another son of the pharaoh, Lysimachus. His army will possess high-tech equipment just like Aristophanes and his men. With this third army here, we could garrison every bridge along the Tigris, securing our lands. Apart from the free range the northern puppets have directly into our lands. They have already done it once, and we saw the consequences of that. Do you think it was a coincidence they did it twice then? No! At least Egyptian resolve can defeat almost anyone. The ones terrorizing our relations with Carthage continue to gain ground. Once more they had convinced the elite to end their trade agreements with us, even after we joined their war against Rome. We could only imagine this was due to our lack of genuine support so far. Let's get started then. If we are to operate in the Agates, we will need a proper supply depot. Kyrene could in theory make do, but it was half a year trip. Establishing a colony out in the west seemed much more fitting. There is this island called Corsica, which is sparsely populated. It could be a decent option. But along the road, we might as well profit a bit by sacking some of the many ports along the coast of Sicily. The raid of Akragas alone gave us almost 3,000 gold. Oh, this looks extremely profitable to us. But not everything is positive though, with Ptolemy preparing Libya for yet another unnecessary war. This time far better prepared than before, due to our spy network keeping a keen eye on the Numidians every step of the way. In theory, Jason and Aristophanes could both reach Sugma, potentially taking it back. But it would be a costly battle, leaning in the favor of no one. So instead, Alexandra of Syria decided to even the scales by snatching away the iron mines of Massacre.